3, and then there's 4, and then 5 is coming down the line. It's kind of like of work or anything like that. But the models that are on websites, so that, model clothing. Yeah, I guess, everyone's trying something just to see how far they can push it and what they can make from it, which I think was like quite playful. But think about where he was there, where everyone trusted him. You trusted him with your data. You trusted him with stuff.
It'll be well on its way to being on, maybe not online, but you'll get a lot more information by the time you listen to this interview here.
Yeah.
So basically, if
5, 4, 3, 2.
So welcome to another episode of the Before Skynet podcast with myself, Mr. Rock. And today I've got a very special guest in the building, a professional at his art, Aaron Daniel from Aaron Daniel Films. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm so good, man. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast here. It's been a while since we've gotten to speak, and I'm excited to get into it tonight.
Yeah, man, me too. Like you said, it's been a while. The last podcast that we did, I'm not going to mention any names, but I thought it was a really, really good podcast. I learned a lot from it, and I'm sure the audience were able to pick up a lot from it too.
Appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah. So, what you been up to, man? Since we last spoke, it's been a while. It's probably been about 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Oh, 20. That was probably 2020, I think. So almost coming up on 3 years now. It's been quite a while.
It has, isn't it? Time flies, man.
It flies, and at the same time, it feels like it goes extra slow at the same time. You know what I mean? Yeah,
when you think about like what you've done, but actually, when you sit down and really think about what you've done, you can say to yourself, "Well, I've done so much." But still, it kind of feels slow at times, though. I get what you're saying.
Exactly. Especially during these times when we don't know what we can and can't do. It's always up in the air. And yeah.
Now we're entering a new age of strange things happening. So this week we're gonna dig deeper, as we usually do, into the future of technology, but also touching on the past and the present. And over the weeks, we've been touching on different industries, and this week we are focusing on film and graphics and digital art and so on. So it was only right that I would call on Aaron to actually jump into this and, give me some of his thoughts on how he sees the world right now and how he's actually using the tools, if you are using the tools, that is. And if not, why not?
we will find out in the following episode here.
Yeah, so I have been deep in thought and, taking in a lot of information in regards to what's going on in regards to AI and how it's impacting many different industries, and no industry is going to be untouched by this. And it's quite a scary time. I'll probably say that every week, and everybody that listens to this thinks, "Oh, Rock's always scared of something." But, it's just in preparation for what's actually happening out there. So I've actually, played around with some of the platforms and just seen like how they have made a dramatic difference to how I interact and the way I build certain platform information and visuals. But for yourself, how do you see this new age? Just standing back from a distance and just looking at it.
For anyone listening, I'm a wedding filmmaker. I've been doing it for 9 years now, and that's the only kind of like experience and perspective that I have on tech at the moment. But 4 or 5 months ago, December 2022 is when AI, I think, really exploded in not just the artist space, but en masse in general, right? You had ChatGPT, you had Midjourney, you had those are the two main ones that I'm most acquainted with. Yeah. But from my experience, it's something that I think we all have to come to accept. I thought of it was like when I first signed up for ChatGPT, I thought it was like the next Google, and I really felt how people must have felt when Google first came out. Like being able to search anything and have it spit out resources right away. The same thing with ChatGPT AI. You're able to create and find things out at such a fast pace.
Yeah, lightning speed. It's nuts because if you think about that from when the internet first came about and how we search for information. Prior to that, we were just using things like the yellow pages. I don't know if you have that here, but it was like a directory where you could find companies and the number
Oh
and
my! Oh, speaking of that, Rock, I remember when I was like 7 years old, I was trying to find the phone number of I think a pizza place in my area because I saw a sign of it. I was like, how do I find this? Let me go. I asked my parents, how do I find out the number? Can we can we drive by that sign again so I can find out the number? And then
yeah.
I think my dad gave me a huge phone book and told me to look at the yellow colored pages. And so that's my only like memory of those antiquated times, you know. And
Yeah.
it feels like so long ago, but at the same time, it was just not even a few decades ago.
Yeah. Seriously. Time is flying so quickly. I guess for the older generation, they can look back at it and probably have a different perspective on it. But I think as the generations go on, the way they see technology and how they use it, they can be so unattached from things of the past and so much in the present, and it becomes like natural to them. So I don't see anything different from that. But yeah. So that age of the technology industry and like how it impacted other companies, you know in addition to searching for information, you had the digital age in terms of like photography, images that we could share so quickly. We had video chat really early, but in your time when you developed and you came up, what kind of platforms and tools were you using back then? Were you using anything that was on a computer, or were you more using like handheld cameras and things like that or did that not come into play until later on in life?
Oh wow, this is bringing back a lot of nostalgic memories because when so I said technically I started professionally 9 years ago in wedding filmmaking, but before that it was always just a hobby. Like I feel a lot of creators start
Yeah.
out in some kind of a low barrier to entry creative space like photography or like videography.
Yeah.
And before, when I was in high school, I absolutely loved editing. I would edit like family home videos of trips that we would take.
Yeah.
And I would consider that point in my life that had a huge impact on me because it made me realize how exactly low the barrier to entry was. Because if I could do it at this age where I don't have a job at all, I could definitely make something of myself when I do have some sort of capital to help build and sponsor my growth as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so growing up, to anyone listening, like I grew up on what were they called? Those pocket cameras. I think it was a Kodak X something. Those like little tiny.
Was it wind and snap, or was it like the one that actually produced the picture at the front?
The point and shoot wine and snap thing? That was when I was 7. That was when I was looking at the yellow pages at family picnics with those crank film point and shoot cameras that you would bring to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Fortinos would develop that film, and that was the only like place I knew about camera stuff back then.
Yeah.
So at like a very young age of 5 to 7, I knew that you could take photos, you could be creative visually with stuff like that. And then as I grew into high school, we had those pocket cameras, kind of like what cell phones are now, but without the cell phone part. So it was fun because it was so easy to take with you anywhere. And I think that was the basis of what made it so popular, the ease of use.
Yeah. The only downside is that you were very precise in exactly what picture you were taking, not like 16 shots and I'll take one of the best ones out of it.
Exactly. 35 mil. You only had so many frames to use the reel, and at least that when I was 5 to 7, I don't know my exact age, but using those film cameras, you have to be very precise and very thoughtful of how you use that technology. And I think that opens up a huge route coming into the future, coming into the present, how right now you don't need to be as thoughtful. You can experiment in so many different ways, and that
Yeah.
opens up such a huge space for people to explore. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you didn't have to really. Well, you had to think more about the composition and where people were standing, and then come on, everybody, get together and cheese. Oh, not you're not ready yet.
Classic.
Okay, you know.
Oh
So
my! And then if you didn't get the shot, you'd have to pay more just to get one more shot because the
yeah,
film is still expensive today.
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that that's still something that is used today. It's specific to individuals that are really into that way of art, really, and
That medium of art, yes.
yeah. Um, that actually leads on to, in terms of where technology is and where it's going, because I'm highlighting a lot on the show about how, we need to adapt with the times or get left behind. So with that said, one of the biggest companies worldwide, when it came to photography was Kodak, right? So Kodak were like international players when it came to photography and film back in the day, and I think the invention of the instant, not the instant camera, but the digital camera, the fact that they didn't really pick up on it and feel like it was actually something that was going to go somewhere. They kind of felt like it was going to be a bit of a fad and didn't invest as much into it. So with that, they kind of fell off and got left behind, right?
Yeah, that was so strange to me because Kodak was a staple in any photographer's kit, you know.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, you needed Kodak. One of my first digital cameras was a Kodak camera,
Yeah.
and it was cool. I remember vividly bringing it to school. I was grade 6. I brought it to school every Friday because it was a fun day to just take photos and videos. I have some photos still. Not portfolio worthy, but still such a Kodak as a company was so nostalgic. A lot like I think Fujifilm was also a competitor, one of their contemporaries. All the camera companies now were Kodak's contemporaries.
Yeah.
But Kodak, without keeping, I know they disappeared for a while. And I think they're still a player in the film processing side of things, but not as prominent in the actual camera body field.
Yeah.
At least from what I know. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I know that it was for a good reason on their front as a company because they could focus in on what they do best, which was film. I personally love emulating their film stocks in my own films digitally.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's still something that they can be proud of, you know.
Yeah.
So they didn't lose, but at the same time, they just went a different path from everyone else, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be good for me to actually do a bit more research into actually where they actually went. Because from my perspective, it was just, I didn't visually see them. I didn't use any of their products as just a basic consumer, you know. But if they were,
I feel like I'm the same.
Yeah, if they were leading so much in a certain market, you know, I guess for them it was for them to invest their time and money into that, and then build off that. So, all the best to Kodak and all that.
yeah, Kodak. What else? Who else was there? Fujifilm, I mentioned. Polaroid was another big one. I think they got back in there with their more of their fun instant cameras.
Yeah, yeah. Because even
as companies, I think they're still trying to make the most of what their legacy products were. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting that Fuji, they actually create actual camera bodies though, still, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. I think their main thing back then was film. Correct me if I'm wrong. To anyone listening who was around during the time of their prominent peak, but I think from my understanding, Fujifilm was known for their film stocks as well, like Kodak, and like their Portra film stocks. I don't know their specifics, but I know that's a big part of who they were as a brand.
Yeah.
Another company is Leica. Actually, Leica. I use a Leica camera for my own wedding film work, and
Okay.
it's as a legacy company. I love their history, and I love how they've been able to imbue the historical aspect of how it was used during World War II, and
Yeah.
how they bring it into the modern technology these days. So something cool maybe to touch on is how, like, you can either go the Kodak route and hone in on something like their film stocks and what they know they're good at, or
Yeah.
kind of go along with the times like Leica,
Yeah.
and partner up with someone like Panasonic. For anyone listening, Leica and Panasonic are in a partnership, and
Okay.
they've been able to create some very beautiful work.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
So just you saying that, it just opens up a can of, not worms, but a can of inspiration in terms of, like, even though the industries that we're working in and, have hobbies and, make money in, even though they're changing, I guess we could see from that perspective as, focusing on, before we were able to master all these things, but now AI has come along and it's, taking away certain elements of what we used to do manually.
Oh man, yeah.
But I guess in a sense we can now think about what are we really bringing to the table in terms of skill set. And even if it is using AI, we can focus more on AI and enable it and understand it, know how to use it and manipulate, the tools that it has, so we can be greater in that specific area. So we might have been, dealing with 10 things as part of a process, and now we can cut it down just to one and just be really great at that specific thing and just using the tools that are available to us.
Yeah,
Something to think
that's
about.
so cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think of it stuff right now that
Yeah.
Leica or Kodak could implement with their own AI. So,
How do you think AI will change the way digital creators approach content creation? So coming off the back of what we just spoke about. So how do you think that's going to change? Because we're kind of seeing it now, but it's very much all over the place. People are trying all these different things, and, anything new, they're jumping on and let's try this one, let's try that one. But from your perspective, do you think that as a digital content creator, you are a digital content creator, right? We would say that.
I think so. I think so. It's debatable, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you are. The fact that you're on this podcast, you are already. So I'll put you in that pond.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
How do you think this will change for you? And it's not something that I'm asking because I want you to give away your secrets or anything like that, because you might have things working on. But can you see a need to change in your industry from what's going on right now?
Yeah, this is such a huge can of worms. I'm going to say it. It's a huge can of worms, because there are so many different routes that AI can take for someone to be able to integrate it properly, quote unquote properly, and quote unquote not properly, improper, whatever the opposite of properly is. I think so. From my understanding, again, I'm just a wedding filmmaker. I've been doing it for 9 years. That's all I've been doing for the past few years, and I can only comment on this from my perspective. However, I do want to say that I think I'm at a level in my career where I have a good pulse on where things are, how people are coming up in the industry, and how people have come up in the industry. And it's cool to see how AI, or it's cool to think about and be inspired by how AI can be implemented into our workflows these days. A lot like how we were speaking about how technology is moving at such a fast pace now. Not even a few decades ago, we had Yellow Pages, and now just a few, like not even 2 decades later, I'm typing up how do I create you could theoretically say, hey, ChatGPT, can you come up with a full business strategy for me around something I
Yeah.
don't know anything about, and it can do that for you. So
Yeah.
I think there are so many, there are tons of cans that can be opened,
Mhm.
and a lot of worms can come out. So from my perspective, all that to say that from my perspective, I see digital creators in two categories. So
Okay.
the first category of digital creator that I would label is a content marketer. That's what most people would think of when we say the term content or digital creator. I think I don't know,
Mhm.
when you think of the term, when you think of someone who makes things online, who sells online products and stuff, for the
Yeah.
most part, I would lean them towards the content marketer side. That's the first form of digital creator that I see. The second
Mhm.
form of digital creator is on the other hand, someone who isn't necessarily using the digital space to sell something, but
Mhm.
is using the digital space as their product, as something.
Yeah.
So let me try to define that a little more. Uh, a good example of a digital artist is an illustrator, a videographer, filmmaker, photographer, writer. Their product is only their product only exists in pixels on the screen in
Yeah.
digital format. That's a digital artist, at
Mhm.
least in my eyes. Whereas again, the content marketer is using the digital space to sell something that isn't necessarily digital. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
a content marketer is selling something like, if you had an apparel brand or something like that, you could post a video on TikTok, and that
Mhm.
video is still part of the digital creator's skill set, but I would put them in the content marketer
Yeah.
category. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I get what you're saying, and I think it's good to actually break down, these different
Mm-hmm.
areas, and just because then it enables you to focus more on, what you are and where you're going. So I think there's a lot of times where people can be so engulfed in many different areas of something. Say, for instance, myself, I do all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of different things, but sometimes we need to define like who we are and what we are. So when we communicate with other people, they know, oh, okay, you do this, rather
Mm-hmm.
than you saying
Exactly.
you're doing all these things, and they're kind of like, but so how am I going to work if you do all these things? Like if you can define it and express that to your audience, and they know who you are and what you do, then they can come to you for work because they know exactly what they're going to get from
Exactly.
you.
Just honing in on what it is you can bring to the table. It's extra hard these days because everyone's doing everything, or
Yeah,
everyone can do anything. I mean,
yeah.
I forget who said this. I think it was Ray Dalio, actually. He said, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Mm,
And that's
yeah,
something to live by with technology, especially these days. And
yeah.
going back to your question there, though, Rock, how digital creators are being impacted. Um, I think it's hard to really tell right now because the landscape is so up in the air.
Mm,
It can go, yeah, it could go south, or we could just see everything. Uh, uh, it would require a lot of regulation
mm,
to use things in an ethical kind of way. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah. That was one of my questions I was going to move on to in terms of like the ethics, but just before that, um,
yeah.
so what I found is, with these new technologies, and especially for video, it's been there a while for like still images where you can manipulate and you can put someone in a shot or take someone out of a shot, because you can do it on mobile phones now, just by
Yeah,
circling somebody, and it just removes them. But now we've got these
that's crazy to
platforms.
me.
They got these platforms that will do it to videos. So you might have seen some videos where they've
Hmm.
put Bill Cosby's face on top of Eddie Murphy when Eddie Murphy's doing an impression. You
Yes, those
have,
deep fakes. Yeah,
yeah, those deep fakes. You know, they've added people into shots, and it's kind of
that's
like,
scary. That's the scary part.
yeah, it's super scary because they do it for visuals, but now the video side of it is, you know, the uptake on that is just going through the roof right now.
Hmm.
So from an ethical side of things, so are there any ethical concerns surrounding the use of AI in digital creation? Was my question. So the likeness of people is being used all over the place without, you know, people actually giving their consent. And you're hearing music tracks, you're starting to see videos. There's
Yeah.
even the ability to insert yourself into NBA games now. So after they've played, and I think the NBA app, you can do a scan of yourself, and
Wow.
you can put yourself into the game.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's cool and scary at the same time.
yeah, and it's not just your face; they'll take a whole body scan. So if you the
Wow.
video I saw, this guy had a purple hoodie on, black jeans, and some sneakers, and then when he's running around in the game, it just looks like it's him. And that's something that, you know, came about. I saw it probably about 4 months ago. But the way technology is going, moving, the speed that it's moving at right now, you know, every week, every couple of days, there's something new. There's an improvement. There's a, you know, step up from, you know, Chat GPT 3, and then there's 4, and then 5 is coming down the line. It's kind of like what? So does that, the fact that, you know, the ethical concerns about people using other people's likenesses, does that impact you at all in the industry that you're in? Is there anything that
Yes.
you would need to?
I personally don't have much experience and haven't looked too deeply into the ethics of AI in my industry, in my space. In terms of, I think weddings are still, there's still a legacy kind of space and industry where people kind of know where the boundaries are. Whereas if we were talking about something like, what's a good example? A wedding is an event, and let's bring back your example, and an NBA game, a basketball game is an event too. Uh, people, it's more mainstream to go to a basketball game versus a like 50-person wedding.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I think it leaves it. There's more room for experimentation is a good word to use instead of something like doing something unethical.
Yeah.
So like I don't know what's a good example of something unethical at a basketball game. Like maybe for example the DJ, what's his name, Four Corners, I don't know if you know the DJ, the Raptors DJ,
Oh,
their
okay.
official
Yeah.
DJ.
Yeah.
Mhm. I met him once. He was super cool.
Yeah.
And I interviewed him actually. This was like way back when I did interviews. But
Okay. That's cool.
he when when he's playing music, I don't know what producers or DJs are capable of putting together, but technically they're using other people's intellectual property when they're playing something.
Yeah.
And on a mass level, he obviously knows how to make good music and how to mash up good music. And
Yeah.
let's say he puts he makes some kind of remix for the entire basketball audience to listen to of, I don't know, Drake's One Dance. He put some like his own remix of it on blast, and that's cool to the audience. That's accepted because something like TikTok has made that acceptable. Whereas at a wedding, if you were to deep fake
Yeah.
deep fake Donald Trump and Biden getting married or something like that. I don't want to get political, but on the most extreme side of things, if they were to deep fakely get married, that makes it,
Yeah.
that for sure is not something acceptable. At least to the main person or mainstream person. You know what I mean? So it depends on the industry that we're in.
Yeah. So there used to be a saying. What was it? Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Right? I think that's the way it used to go, Ray.
I think so. That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's believe none of what you see and none of what you hear.
Exactly. It's so scary. Holy moly. Another good example now that I'm thinking of producers is the other day I heard a song. Someone produced a hip hop beat, and he recorded himself rapping with his own lyrics on top of it, and he used AI to make it sound like Drake was singing. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool. I wanted Drake to release the song until until I heard read that it was AI. Yeah, it was Drake and The Weeknd.
That was one of the topics I was talking about last week. Actually, we were talking about the music industry and how it's changing. And we were talking about those. I gave an example of one of I can't remember the name of the group, but they created a track and made it sound as if Jay-Z recorded with them. The cadence.
Yes, I think I saw that.
Yeah, and the sound of his voice. Like, if this was 2 years ago,
so crazy.
We wouldn't
have thought it wasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people outside, just think about the people that are outside of the knowledge of AI every day. They'll hear something and just think that it's just real because they're not connected as to, the advancements in AI and what it can actually do. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's so insane. Another good example of that, just because you're bringing up how someone's using someone else's voice, their IP, their brand as something that they're trying to sell as their own. The other day I was watching a video from a wedding photographer, and what he mentioned was how AI, especially with Adobe's new AI system. I'm not sure what their photography system is called. I think it's called Adobe Samurai, I think. Or that might be their video AI. But either way, Adobe has an AI that if you tell it to change the scenery of something, it'll do it at such a realistic level. So you could, as a wedding photographer, you could take a photo of a couple once and tell the AI to put them in different environments, and you could theoretically have a huge portfolio of different scenes of different weddings in different locations just from taking one photo. And that's where it gets so scary and very unethical, because if you put it as your portfolio, you're basically bait and switching your prospective clients, because that's not even your work. And that's where it gets really scary for at least my industry.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, the fact that we can now manipulate what's real and what's fake. I, had a conversation with a friend the other day, and we were discussing how potentially, and I don't want to put this out there to put people out of work or anything like that, but the models that are on websites, so that, model clothing. The fact that now you could actually go into an app, look at a piece of clothing, and you can actually try it on virtually and move around, and the the t-shirt or whatever will move with your body. Mm-hmm. They will now be in a position to be like, okay, we take it to the next level and we'll get rid of the models. We don't need the models. We take pictures of the clothes from a 3D dimension. Wow. We'll stick it to the object or however they, digitally design it. And then they can create these fake people that look immaculate and look, exactly how they want, the right tone, the right height, the right shape, right bone structure. And then instantly like that,
they're wearing it.
Yeah.
Holy moly. To me, that sounds really cool, but I know people in the fashion industry would probably have some conservations around that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very detrimental to them. But on the flip side of it, what I'm trying to do every week is talk about, like, even though this could happen, what doors could it open? Because then I feel like people will move down the line of being entertained by actually going to more like fashion shows, catwalks, and that becoming a big thing for people to
Interesting.
spend the time to go to rather than going to the movies. You might go and see what Zara releasing next summer or whatever. You know what I mean? So there's opportunities out there. And like I put a lot of these out. So if anybody's listening and watching these and need some ideas, just, drop me an email. I can work with you on some stuff.
He's the man to call.
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to think of the future and trying to place myself in the right position. And if it's as a some type of how can I put it? Just someone that can provide these types of ideas and work with people, then yeah, I'm fully open to it for the right amount of these.
I love it. I love it. That's so cool. A few months ago too, actually, I was reading. So a lot of my work is informed by the luxury industry, and I forget which company did this, but they started renting out their clothes, and it's done supposedly really well. They're renting out closets basically of these high-end luxury couture dresses just for one night or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. It's crazy that we get to that point where we're renting and hiring things, and I guess in a sense there's nothing wrong with it, but I guess we've just always grown to know that this is ours, or people, I guess, more, I don't want to be putting this out like I'm just this is only for women or this is only for men, but I find the women will share like handbags and let me wear this jacket or these shoes. I don't feel men do that as much, but I guess that's where it's grown out of the fact that you could buy one item and you could share it with 5 of your girlfriends or whatnot, and everyone gets some value out of it. And I guess it's all that model and like, let's run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
interesting.
Yeah, I'm a little bit selfish though. I don't think I'll be lending anybody a pair of my J's.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say you keep those too much in tip-top shape to
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, take them off, wipe them down, put them in the box.
The Uber of closets, basically.
Yeah. I guess everyone's trying something just to see how far they can push it and what they can make from it, which I think in today's world, I think that's what we need to do. We have to be trying many different things to see what sticks, but also I guess ChatGPT can do some statistic analysis and provide some information that we can work from to see if that is a good venture. So, okay.
Yeah.
So what skills do you think a digital creator will need to develop in order to successfully integrate AI into their workflow?
Yeah, I think that's the big question here, is how to best use it, right? Like, using AI successfully is such a hard question right now because, again, we don't even know what AI looks like. It changes all the time. Is it allowed to be here? Is it going to change again? And what can it do? What can it and can not it do? At a excuse me, if at a fundamental level, I think AI is still really a reflection of our reality, and not so much that sentient alien that we might think of it as. I actually looked up Skynet again because I mentioned to you the other week, I didn't know what it was from. You mentioned it was from the Terminator. I had to rewatch. I didn't rewatch the movie, but I rewatched clips about what it was. And I don't think AI is at that level yet.
No.
It could be if we wanted it to be. I'm sure it could. But we're not at we're not in that landscape right now. So from my personal experience, successfully integrating AI into your workflow is, I think, the exact same way that you would onboard a new employee or a personal assistant or something like that. So for example, the key performance indicator for ChatGPT being integrated into your workflow. So like knowing that ChatGPT is successful in your business, let's say, for example, as a graphic designer, AI could AI could be integrated into some sort of chatbot on your website, speaking to prospective clients, helping them get to know who you are, and helping to really hone in on what it is that you'd be able to do for that potential client. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one nice example, and the key indicator there would probably be something like increased clients from integrated ChatGPT into your website chatbot. So that's one example, working on the front end of your digital creator business. Another example is AI being implemented on the back end, where it could be used to brainstorm ideas for, again, for example, the graphic designer. Maybe examples about a particular project or a campaign that you're working on with your illustration work, with your graphic design work. It could also be a form of marketing, marketing within your B2B sales, you know, so it could give you brand strategies, or not brand strategies, marketing strategies to sell yourself as a graphic designer. So I think that's how AI is currently being used at its greatest potential right now, helping users on the front end and helping users on the back end think of things and brainstorm ideas. So it's not at a level of implementation, because we're still the ones that give the green light and the press the big red button to explode. AI isn't there.
There is, in the last few weeks, there's been a couple of new versions of GPT, or the large language models. Cool. They're actually doing processes for people now. So you could say, you could give it a list of things that you want it to do because it's the outcome that you want, and it will go away. Say, for instance, I want to take a trip to Los Angeles on the 21st of, you know, or
and it books the flight.
Yeah, it will give you all the information as to, you know, what time you should be leaving, your flight number, the best flight to purchase, when you will get there, and it can sort out all that information and provide it to you. And what they're doing now, they're actually taking it a step further by giving the AI the ability to actually purchase things now.
Whoa!
So it could do the whole thing for you, and then you could just turn up and just follow the instructions that it gives you. How much people trust it is another thing, because I still want to double check and make sure did it book right? Did it give me extra leg room and whatnot? You know?
Oh my!
But yeah, it's
that's
getting to
another
that point.
HAL 9000.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'll put it on screen now. Exactly what the new version of this GPT is called now. But yeah, that was something that I hadn't heard about 3 weeks ago. I don't think that it could do that, but last week, you know, it was a reality that it could do it, and it was sharing it with people. So
I mean, that doesn't seem out of the question with the software that's coming out, but it's scary that it's actually being implemented. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think that, you know, one of the biggest things is, you know, people to use it. You know, just get hands-on with it, or stay up to date with what's actually happening and what's moving. Because I think a lot of people are like burying their head in the sand and be like, oh, I'll deal with it when it actually, when I need to deal with it. But I think it's something that we all need to make sure it's on our radar daily, weekly. Just, you know, read an article, watch a YouTube video, because you don't want to be, you know, 6 months down the line now, and then things have dramatically changed so much, and you're so out of contact and unconnected from what's going on in the world, that it's going to take you a longer time to, you know, to scale up.
Yeah, the way I saw it was when I was trying to explain it to my family. Actually, they were like, "Oh, no one's gonna do that because you need writers to write blog posts." But I used ChatGPT to help me write my my website copy and blog posts.
Yeah.
Um, and you also people were very reluctant and what's the word? Not hesitant, but skeptical
Mhm.
about what it could actually do. But we were seeing time and time again that it's replacing the need to write essays
Yeah.
by yourself. So
And
it's doing all the schoolwork for you. It's doing all the hard stuff for
yeah,
you.
and it does it so well. So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like, people feel like, oh, it's just skimming the internet and just grabbing this article and grabbing that, but it's actually more. I shouldn't say, well, yeah, intelligent, because it's AI, but it's actually figuring how to take the best of all these bits of articles and information and squeeze it together to produce something for you, and then you can ask it to summarize it,
Yeah.
compact it,
Yeah.
expand on this. You even have the opportunity to say, you might have a paper that was written by a specific doctor, and you might say to ChatGPT to summarize this and deliver it for a 6-year-old audience, and it can take it down. I don't want to say dumb it down, but it can take it
That's
down to the
insane to me.
levels of communicating to a 6-year-old and let them understand what this paper's about.
That is so cool to me. I think,
Yeah.
oh my, the way you're describing it right now, you know how I said that like renting clothes was like the Uber of closets? I
Mhm.
think AI, or at least ChatGPT, is the Uber of Google because it's just giving you
Yeah.
all that you need
Yes.
in that quick speed. Here's everything in the context, in the proper context.
Mm. Yeah.
So
And it's interesting when you mention Google now, because as that's a search engine that we've all grown to love and hate at the same time. But I'm starting to hear about many companies that are trying to block
yeah,
GPT.
the SEO.
Yeah.
It's hard. I personally I've used ChatGPT to help me come up with blog post ideas and outlines for my written work, but I still filter it and go through put my personal voice into it and my personal experiences. So I don't think that my personal work is something that Google would pick up. But if I was if I was lazy, I would just copy
Mhm.
and paste what ChatGPT spits out. And
Yeah.
I think that's why Google is very on top of this and screening for ChatGPT
Yeah.
SEO keywords. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. Because I think some of the artists some of the music artists were asking for, I think, Spotify or one of those streaming platforms to block any GPT AI from actually, communicating and drawing content from it. I'm not sure how it would do it anyway,
Whoa!
but I think they're trying to put
Like
things in
lyrics
place.
from an artist?
Yeah, like lyrics, probably also just the music itself. So, a lot of these platforms are using the recordings to kind of synthesize and then recreate it, so they learn from listening to all the
Yeah,
songs.
exactly.
You can pick up like how this particular artist use particular words or
Yeah, like
vowels.
we were talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then once they've learned that, they can just be like, okay, no need for that now. I'm just gonna use it and just create some other stuff. And it's use other people's voices and other people's work and discard of it and just like, oh, I'm just gonna recreate it now.
Wow.
Yeah, because on the back of that, like if you think
No.
about that from music, it's already being done for graphics.
Yeah, the intellectual property is no one's considering it because
Yeah.
it's just there. Especially in the music industry because TikTok again made it acceptable to just take other
Mhm.
people's music and mash it up however you want.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen. So again, like uh, it starts with it being like the Wild West where everyone's doing everything and trying different things and trying to stay different and putting stuff out there that maybe it's not legal to do,
Yeah.
but then regulations will come in, and maybe Google will be forced to just stop SEO completely. That's an extreme part of things, or stop lyrics or music from being broadcast throughout their search engine. They probably won't do that, but on the extreme end, maybe regulations will inform how they supply information to Google, the people that are using Google. You know what I mean? So that's how it could affect us negatively, by limiting what we're used to because of regulations.
Another point on that, though, it's like with the regulation, okay, they're going to take how long going to take to regulate this and whatnot. Whereas ChatGPT is just out there, just been like, let me get all this information, let me store it somewhere.
Exactly. Where did they come from? How does it know everything?
Yeah, so it's going to have this large database of everything scraped on the internet, and then be like, oh, now they're restricting it and, you know, setting up all these policies and whatnot. And ChatGPT is like, well, I've got all the information already. It's just like how Google had,
Meta.
Yeah, they've already scraped everyone's information. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to put this on there, put that in there. They've already got everything. They've got all they need already.
Oh my.
If you think about Google, when they went down that avenue of they were scanning all these books from libraries. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, no.
It was a few years back. They were going to certain libraries, like really big libraries, and they scanned thousands or even millions of books into their database. And then it got to a point where they put some legal legislation on it and stopped them from doing it. But by then, they'd already scraped how many books and own all the data for it. So, you know, so all these restrictions and policies and, you know, litigation, it's one of those ones where we wish.
I don't know where I would land on that.
How do you mean?
So go ahead. Like I would be for it. It depends on who the company is. It would really depend on who I think is or who the general population thinks is able to use it at an ethical level.
Yeah.
If Mark Zuckerberg were to scan all the books in the entire world, I don't think anyone would want that.
Yeah.
But if you had someone like, I don't know, someone on the complete opposite end, I don't know a good example.
Yeah. But if you think about
that
like,
just goes to show.
if you think about like how, what's his name? The owner of Amazon. What's his name again?
Bezos. Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, right? In his early days,
Legend.
people would have thought, oh, this guy's cool. He's a nice guy. You know, he's got Amazon, and the way his website looked, it was like quite playful. But think about where he was there, where everyone trusted him. You trusted him with your data, you trusted him with stuff, because it was only a small company and he looked like he was trying to do the best for everybody.
Out of a garage,
Yeah, I'm not trying to say he's doing any worse for anybody now, but the fact that someone can grow from being, you know, just, you know, a small business or small company to be like the biggest company that ever was created, you know, and by the time we've already trusted them with that information and data, who knows what they're going to do with it later on. Not to say, Jeff, you're doing anything bad, don't cancel me. But
I just ordered 2 books from Amazon.
You're watching a great show with all my my Amazon Prime blocked or anything like that. But also, I think, you know, with AI, it will enable us to understand our audience a lot more. You know, as a content.
That's a very important point that a lot of people would probably like to use. That's it. Can I go into this a little?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, so I think there was this story I wanted to bring this up. How the best indicator of how we will be using advertising or campaigning or any form of marketing.
Yeah.
Here's the secret. The best way to know how everyone will be marketing is by watching the latest presidential elections of the United States. The elections of the United States is probably the biggest battle for power in the world. They're arguably, especially right now, very arguably the highest power. And if you have two people in out of the 7 billion people in the world, I think it's 7.6 now, probably closer to 8 billion people. Two people of our planet are fighting for the most powerful position in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to be watching them to see how they get everyone's votes. And something cool, a few years ago, I read this book, how this was a prime example. So in 1960, when JFK and Nixon were at it, I'm pretty sure it was exactly 1960. Obviously, I wasn't born back then, so I don't know anything about that timeline. But reading about it, at the time, everyone was so used to listening to the presidential debates on radio. We had this thing called frequency radios, FM.
Okay.
I don't even know if they were on AM or FM, but radio is where all of their debates would happen until the broadcast television came out. And in 1960, that's when the first televised debate was mass televised between John F. Kennedy and Charles Nixon. Is Charles his first name?
I don't even know. All I know is I just know him by Nixon. That's it.
Yeah, Nixon. So they were on TV. This is the first time they're debating. And we have two groups of people. The first group of people say, "Oh man, Nixon knocked it out of the park." The second group of people were like, "What are you talking about? Kennedy is the clear winner here."
Yeah.
The first group listened to them on the radio. The second group watched them on TV. So the people that were in the new form of media could hear them and see them debating.
Yeah.
And that new form of media is what Kennedy used to his advantage. TV was this new cool thing, and he was able to use that to its fullest potential to gain the hearts of America at that time.
Yeah.
And fast forward to our time, 2008, Obama uses a thing called social media, and he won the votes of the states for how long was it? For 8 years.
Yeah.
And then 2016, bouncing off of social media, Trump used big tech in the form of data science.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to get into the specifics of that, because this could get really crazy right now. So we'll keep this not too political, even though this topic is politics. But data science, which was then followed by our current, or the current POTUS right now, which I would argue he used similar. I don't know what he actually used. Maybe people are still looking into the specifics of how Biden got into office. But I would argue that that's probably what most people are using right now to inform their campaign strategies. So obviously it's bouncing off of that data science. And I think AI is what is currently informing. I can't say it right now, but AI is probably there just in the back end, making everything click. I mean,
flow.
Yeah.
It's so on point what you're saying there, because recently I've just been looking like how the algorithm works on YouTube and the way it picks, from your words and, the audiences, and tries this here and then tries that there. And if it picks up more here, then it starts to move around and move closer to where it can get the most views, right? So that's just working on the back end by itself. It doesn't, program once. They keep feeding it with the, the keywords and the tags and the titles and some of the audio, and then it just goes off and does stuff. So like you're saying there, it's these tools will enable people to really understand their data a lot more, because we have these data scientists that, follow certain processes, use certain
Exactly.
equations and whatnot, which is all good, and use certain applications. But AI is already learning from them how they're doing it. So AI can just do it by clicking a button.
Exactly. His first name was Richard Nixon.
That's it. Richard.
If Richard Nixon was in current times, he would probably want to use data science and AI to strategize his campaign.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it also can be used from the other side of it, the manipulation, right? What people really want, and you provide it for them so you can get what you want, which is politics. But if you can really key in and, pinpoint accuracy, get exactly what that person wants when they need it, with the right volume, with the right colors, with the right experience, you're going to draw that person over that side and just feed them with that, because that's what's happening in media anyway. These channels are able to feed people.
It's so weird. The way I've been also looking at how YouTube, how people grow on YouTube, and exactly what you're saying. Just the amount of watch time, basically, and the algorithm fundamentally doesn't have too much of an AI to it, at least from what I've heard. I don't know if you've heard any different, but it just follows the algorithm straightforward. This video does well because, or this video is being watched a lot, so I'll forward it to even more users. That's YouTube. Going forward from there, maybe AI is, again, what you're saying, able to pick up on what, not just what people are watching right now, but what they will be watching later on.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this earlier. AI could send me an ad. So I just moved into the rural parts of Quebec, so I'm in the middle of nowhere. Maybe AI knows that. It could start sending me ads for like rural internet service or something like that. Or maybe not AI. That's a little more surface level right now. So let's say rural internet service is something that current algorithms would feed me for advertisers, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty simple. It knows that my geolocation, it knows where I am most of the time, so it forwards me ads that would probably benefit me living out in the forest. But if the AI were to come into play, and without any further information from the people who are feeding the campaigns, it would probably know that, hey, this guy's gonna need some bug spray. Let me send him some bug spray advertisements.
Yeah.
I'm really feeling that right now, and just because I said that on camera, I'm probably gonna get bug spray ads.
Definitely.
But AI will probably know. AI would know before I even said that.
Yeah, because they're going to be predictive models as well. There was a film, Minority Report.
That's another movie I haven't seen.
Oh, okay. I'm probably going to go back to watch that, so we can watch it and then communicate with each other after. But it was in the future where they were able to predict when people were committing crimes, because they were looking at like their track record, their mental health, I don't know if they were looking at what they eat and everything, but there was all these points, these data points that they could connect to say this person's potentially going to create, do something that wasn't, legal or whatnot, and then they could stop them doing it before they actually did it, which is crazy in a sense, because it's like,
it sounds like Moon Knight to me.
Moon Knight? What's Moon Knight?
The Marvel series.
Oh, okay. I'm not a Marvel guy, but yeah. All right.
Basically, the gods know when someone's going to do something wrong before they're old enough to even know they're doing something wrong. And, that's where it gets weird, or the ethics are muddied.
Yeah, I guess it'd be good if they can use it from a perspective of, trying to get people to not do what they think they're about to do. Rather than
Prevention within the person versus prevention outright, like complete prevention.
Yeah, this person's
I don't
going
need
down
to
this
say.
road. We need to help them so they don't go down that road. Rather than
Exactly.
I'm just gonna be there just before you rob that bank.
Yeah, exactly.
And as you're doing it, we
that
got you.
would be so nice. That would be the ultimate use of AI.
Yeah.
Implementation of preventative medicine.
Yeah.
Basically.
I guess if it's using the right way, at what point is the prevention correct? Is it that person just about to leave their house and potentially might do this? Or is it that person actually gets to the place and just about like 60 seconds away? Or is it 1 second away? But I could get deep about this.
Yeah, that's very deep.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, so it's been interesting talking about a lot of the what's been happening in the past, current and future things, but now we're on the future stuff, and we've spoken about talking about Minority Report and thinking about so much into the future. But let's bring it back to a little bit more current in terms of what you're doing and what your plans are for the future. So I know you mentioned that you were working on some new project, some interesting project that you probably wanted to share. Are you in position to share it right now?
Yeah. So I have been working on something that has been in the in the works in my head for the past few years.
Yeah.
I've been working on an online course, a wedding film editing course.
Okay.
And by the time our listeners hear this, I'm hoping it'll be well on its way to being on, maybe not online, but you'll get a lot more information by the time you listen to this interview here.
Yeah.
So basically, if I were to associate it back to our tech topics here, wedding filmmaking is really the use of implementing both the technical side of gear, using all the top-notch, maybe you're using all the top-notch camera lenses, all the gimbals, all the audio equipment, but at the same time trying to mix it with one of the most human and emotional parts of what human history has given us. Like, a wedding is probably the most ceremonial and most accepted understanding of what it means to be human, right? I could get very philosophical and spiritual in topics like this, but being able to take a 4K camera, bring it into a 4,000-year-old tradition. I don't think weddings are 4,000 years old, but something like a legacy human event is astounding to me. And being able to create a course that really puts it all together in a way that entertains, engages, and really epitomizes the true nature of what it means to be human through the use of current technology is something so cool to me.
Okay.
And it's very much in the preliminary phases right now.
Yeah.
So I can't give away too much, but
No worries.
be on the lookout for a wedding film editing course by Aaron Daniel Films. It's called Emotional Mosaicism. And if that gives you a hint on what I will be teaching, get excited for it.
Okay. I like the sound of that. I'm actually excited because the fact that you mentioned like the human element, I can't remember the word you used specifically, but I think you used human. But the fact that we're moving so far into the digital, that the fact that people are focusing on still creating and keeping the human element of things in their work rather than digitizing it, making everything like super perfect and, digitally mastered. And I'm not saying that it's not going to be, but, the real human connection and things like that, it is something that's missing, especially a lot from social media, because people are playing a particular role when they're posting something. It's not necessarily really them. It's the person that they've, the cape and the Superman costume, and then when they take it off, they're back to normal Clark Kent. So I like that.
Exactly.
I really, really like that. It's something I'll
I
definitely
appreciate
promote
that.
and like to talk to you a bit more in depth, when you've got it off the ground and, you got some feedback from your
I would love to.
attendees and stuff. Cool. Okay. So thank you all for taking the time to listen, and thank you so much, Aaron, for coming and blessing me with your time, knowledge, skill set, emotions, your creativity, and also your humanness.
Mr. Rock, I'm going to call you Mr. Rock. Thank you so much for having me on this show today. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you again, and hopefully our audience here got something out of this.
Yeah. If they didn't,
our late night talk.
Yeah, if they didn't, there's something wrong with them and they need to rewind and listen to this again. But anyway, is there anything you want to promote or, push?
If anyone wants to look up my work, what I do for a living, this is wedding filmmaking is all I do. If you want to check out what I do, what the only thing that I've been doing these past few months, you can check me out at aarondanielfilms.com or on Instagram at aarondanielfilms. Maybe that'll give you a sense of why I said the things that I said during the podcast, and maybe you'll be able to put a good face to the audio that you've been listening to.
Yeah, definitely check out his Instagram. Check out the Instagram will then feed you to the other platforms. Trust me, because the quality that's on there, like every time I say anything, I'm always liking stuff. So keep up the good work, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I think you're someone who is making waves and impacting lives, especially because you're in that industry where you work on a personal level with people. So great that you're adding value to people's experiences. Okay, thanks for taking the time to listen. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And thanks for coming through and listening to the Before Skynet podcast, because this is Before Skynet. So until next time, be safe. Peace.
5, 4, 3, 2.